the number one thing that we have to understand is that, yes, it's profitable and trendy, as has been stated, but really it's preparation. You're in a war. I don't want to name what kind of war it is, but you're in a war. You're already losing the war. The war's been going on for more than 100 years. And the idea that they're talking about this because it's trendy, no. If you ever notice the breakout of a political war, before we invade Iraq, you're going to hear anti-Muslim propaganda. You're going to hear anti-Arab propaganda. The minds of the masses are being prepared to hurt you. You see, we look upon history and the Jays that were, they suffered in Germany. There were some who stayed. There were all the warning signs to leave. Einstein left. There were all the warning signs, but they stayed, not believing that their enemy would act as enemies do. The fact of the matter is that Black men will lead us out of darkness. And we have a woman that needs to yield to us because we have to reestablish the family structure. And if we're talking about race, race has a number of features. I wanted to ask Pearl, like, can you define what a white person is with like 3 items? As a Black racial group, we have to figure out, number one, who's the leader? Is it the man? Is it the woman? Or are we equal? I say the man. Secondly, we have to figure out, well, what is it to be Black? Tightly coiled hair, skin darker than a certain complexion, and when you smile, you still have an upper lip. 3 basics for you on what it is to be Black. If you ain't got that, you ain't Black. Now, the question is, if we really respect ourselves as Black people, do we allow our women to emulate white women? Do we allow them to emulate the racial features? And then do we create false narratives and say, oh, well, some Black people are blonde. Look at the people in Melanesia. It's like, what percentage of Black people is that? It's minuscule. Why do we actually not love ourselves? And the last piece is we have to tell the truth. One of the things that disappointed me when Pearl was here, of course, she was talking a lot of nonsense and hyperbole, but when she identified true statistics about Black people being convicted of crimes. Now, granted, white people may have done the same thing and just not been convicted, not been arrested, or not received the same amount of time. It's true. But what we can't do is lie and say, oh, we don't commit crimes. Yes, we do. And we have a lot of things that are broken in the culture and they need to be addressed. Then the other thing we have to mention is we actually need ideology. You have people like Dr. Umar Johnson, who great speaker, but terrible with ideology. Much of what he speaks to, he got from Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. Now, he says things that don't make any sense. I'll give you an example. When he says, you know, Black men, stay with the Black woman. I agree. That's number one. That's great. We should do that. But then he says, don't ever be with a snow bunny. I'm like, no, actually, if you think about in times of war, you need numbers. Our numbers have been devastated, especially with the abortion. I don't know, especially with Black women not birthing all of our kids. So if you have a Black male who has intercourse with a white woman, she's unlikely to then have kids by a white man. So not only have you increased our population, you've also stopped their population, if in fact you find that you're at war. So we don't actually have a battle plan, and we're dealing with people who do have a battle plan. For example, you always hear the whites. There's even one white guy who goes around on TikTok like, hey, talking to white girls, hey, do you guys sleep with other people outside of your race? He's talking about Black men. They're obsessed with us. Why? Because of genetic annihilation. So why are they taking precautions to stop their genetic annihilation, and we're not taking precautions to expand our population and to recover our families? We don't have ideology. And we also think that we're Black when really we're not Black. We got blonde hair, we got permed hair, and a lot of us think like liberal white women. I yield the floor.
I agree with you. Since somebody say something, I think that what we're seeing now, and you're right, I can't discount nothing you're saying, because I feel like we have to kind of like work our way through. I think what they've done is so damaging that people that think like us and you are such a minority that is so much rehabilitation has to happen to the minds of people unless we're just going to deal with the youth. Because we have always had, we came up with ideologies immediately when slavery ended. You know what I'm saying? And every time we came up with some sort or semblance of an ideology, it was totally destroyed. Now, should that give us an excuse to not do it again? No, but I think what they've done is so concentrated and so laser targeted on us economically, food-wise, politically, that it has just created a new consciousness that we have to literally exercise just to get our people to see what the issue is. Like, so I think it's just, we have a lot of work to do, and we have a small time to do it. And I just think it's all by design. So unfortunately, I just think it's a remnant of us that have to deal with the masses of us to get us to wake up. Hopefully we can do it in time. But I think what they've done was so laser focused and so planned out. Like you said, they're very strategic. We have to move with the strategy. Their strategy started 1,500 years ago. So it's like, we're just, it's just, I just feel like they've done so much that it's created a stigma in our people's minds, where it's just a lot of exorcism that has to happen for them to even see the goal. But what you're saying is
I think it's that deep. I mean, if you look at the Berlin conference, when they planned to carve up Africa, and then they went in there and did it quite efficiently, and their ability to overtake our minds was quite quick. Our ability to deprogram our minds can be as quick, but it will take force. That's one thing you're not counting for. And because the Black people as a mass were effeminate. So when you talk about patriarchy, when you talk about force, whoa, no, that's actually precisely what we need. And I would only estimate that there's only been one effective ideology coming out of Black people. That was by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad under the Nation of Islam. Otherwise, Black people, they were only joining on to what other people talk about. We're a Marxist, I'm a socialist, I'm a Maoist. Even the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, which is a very highly effective organization, victim of COINTELPRO, but they were following Maoism and Marxism. So we have yet to actually trust our own mind. So often we're basically using what we learned in university, which was a brainwash. And the idea that we're in such disrepair that we can't recover, absolutely not. It takes training, conditioning, enculturation, and education, and that can be done within a generation, but it will take force. And if we're really serious about getting on track, we have to start applying force. I've already done it. I'm not talking about what I'm guessing on. I'm talking about what I'm at work at. Like, for example, we talk about income and criminality. People who are poor tend to commit more crimes. So we should be teaching entrepreneurship. That's something I've been doing for over a decade, and it works. You can go to my website. You got a bunch of products created by Black people. We just have to be able to franchise it out strategically and have greater faith in ourselves. We're phenomenal people, especially those of us in America. We're the most remarkable ethnic group on earth, including the whites and anyone else you want to name. I yield the floor.
I agree with that. To piggyback on your point, do you think that'll be advantageous or not for us to start looking not just as an American? Because I know we have an FBA movement where it's caused another type of schism.
It's not a movement. It's just a name.
No, I get it, but it's still, it's like Black Lives Matter was once a name, and then it became a movement. So you're right. That
was a white woman's movement. That was a liberal white woman movement. Yeah, absolutely. It's founded by George Soros, but it was first just a little hashtag, and then it became a reality. So I agree. What I'm saying is,
it's a lineage. It's just another name to say that you're Black American. You're not going to do that. You're not going to say it's a movement. It doesn't have a lineage. Can we just specify that? Just like you want to be called African American.
I never even made my point.
That we're calling ourselves.
I never even made the point though. I'm just talking about the concept. Because he's talking about numbers. He brought up numbers. We need numbers. So what I'm saying is that's true.
We need numbers.
So if we do, hell yeah. But if we do need numbers, like you said that, hey, maybe interracial dating can be advantageous because if a Black man.
No, I'm not recommending it, but I'm saying that it's militarily useful. Yes.
I agree with that. I'm just saying as a point, not saying you advocate for it, but you brought it up as an option that can be utilized efficiently. So what I'm saying is if that can be utilized efficiently, wouldn't you think that, and I'm just throwing it out there to the panel, wouldn't you think that it would be advantageous to attempt to create bonds with Black people abroad? If we're willing to work, hey, if y'all don't agree, y'all don't agree. But I'm saying you don't think that would be advantageous for numbers to try to connect with Black people all over the world? If it's a numbers thing, especially if we can get numbers from being with the white woman and having a mixed child, if that's can be an option for help, you don't think it could possibly be an option to work with people of color all over, not the ones that don't like us, but at least try to extend the olive branch if it's a numbers game, because it's a global issue that we're dealing with.
So one thing I do have is SAS in Africa. I'm actually going to be in Nigeria end of December, early January. And our great effort is to start with ideology, but Africanism never got started. I can't even say it failed because it's never gotten started. And the most important thing to understand about Pan-Africanism is even Africans within a particular nation state don't get along with each other. They don't have a significant bond. Different religions, different languages, different tribes. And it's largely a result of the failings of schooling, enculturation, and training. And the colonial powers were really good at that, but the African powers that took over were really bad at that. You have to design identity. And so what I'm suggesting to you, and I've done business internationally, I used to have employees in South Africa. One of the challenges with international business toward the African continent is the distance. So it's just not realistic to be able to collaborate with people who are in a time zone that far away, with a history and language that different. Even English speaking African countries, their English isn't even quite the same. Like if you go to Uganda, you might not understand them very well. So the first thing has to be ideology, and that has to start with individuals, with families, and with communities that can actually co-locate. And as we do that, then we can grow further. Like, for example, with the Chinese, their diaspora is really highly organized, because if you have a Chinese person in Britain, Australia, or the United States, there's something called Chinese school. They go every Saturday. They study history, culture, and language. So they're all fluent in Mandarin no matter where they were born. So until we have something like that, that provides a consistent, uniform outlet of meaningful information and identity, is not going to work. So what Pan-Africanists have been talking about is this kind of amorphous thing of like, well, let's get together because we're all Black. No, it has to be values-based. We have to state what the values are. And again, it goes back to my point of it's lacked ideology. I yield the floor.